Welcome everyone to Tejano Virtual Events. This session is on the EPCC Forensics team, presented by EPCC Forensics Director, Mr. Matthew Minnich. This session is going to be recorded so that you may come back to it later if you need, and so others who may have missed out on today's events will be able to come back and watch it. Now, at this time, we ask that you please mute your mics for the best sound experience. Otherwise, that feedback could interfere with the information we'll be sharing with you today. So without further ado, here is Mr. Matthew Minnich.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's workshop, which is about El Paso Community College forensics. I'm going to turn off my video because I hate staring at myself, and all I'll do is look at myself the whole time. I'll turn it on periodically. But I want you to know that people, when they hear forensics, their first thought is forensic science and Law and Order and CSI. Unfortunately, it is basically just a fancier word for speech and debate. It comes from the Latin word of the forum, because in ancient Greek times, they would perform in an area they called the forum, and individuals would debate, they'd have discussions, and so that's where that term came about from. So if you hear I've had many students come up to my office and say, "Oh, I'm a pre-med and I want to learn about forensic science." I'm like, "You're in the wrong place, but would you like to join the speech and debate team?" It's a really interesting category that it falls into, because we're under the speech communication department, but we do take students from all majors. We are a competitive speech and debate team that competes intercollegiately with colleges and universities from all over the country. We go to competitions all over the country at different colleges and universities. Sometimes we'll have a competition at a hotel if the tournament is so large that a school cannot accommodate it. Now, any student who's enrolled at least part-time can join the competitive team. If a student is not enrolled part-time, they're enrolled less than part-time, but they want to become a better speaker, they want to hone in debate skills, we're more than happy to have them join the team. Unfortunately, they would not be able to travel because they're not at least part-time. We usually practice twice a week. We used to practice at the Valle Verde campus, but now one of our coaches has become full-time and is on the tenure track at the Northwest campus. So he'll coach students over there, and I'll go to both campuses for the coaching. Many times students who attend the Northwest campus, it's too far for them to come to the Valle Verde campus. So anything we can do to make it easier on our students, we're more than happy to do. When we do go to tournaments out of town, travel and food are paid for by the college. So the college pays for the students' airfare, their hotel, and they also give them a food stipend, which comes in handy, especially because, you know, some of these students don't have the means to go out to eat every day, to spend money just randomly on food. So the college is more than happy to provide them with a food stipend. It's $45 a day, which is great because I usually try to stay at a hotel that has a free breakfast. So students can get a free breakfast, and then all they have to worry about is lunch and dinner. And sometimes the tournaments will provide a lunch for the students and for coaches. So sometimes all they have to really do is just pay for one meal. Forensics is great for students who are dedicated and hardworking. We really try to find students that are responsible. So when we're recruiting from classrooms and classes, we'll ask instructors, you know, it doesn't matter what major the student is, just so long as they turn in their work on time, they're engaging in class, and they take school seriously. Because since we don't have a class attached to the speech and debate team, students are basically on a volunteer basis. So they don't have a class they have to answer to as far as grades or attendance. So they kind of come and go as they please. And the students who have the motivation, the self-motivation to come to meetings every week, are really students that we're looking for. We've had students from all majors. We have a student who is in culinary right now. We've had students who are part of the firefighting academy. We've had political science majors. But students who benefit the most from speech and debate would be all students, but specifically political science majors, uh, criminal justice majors, and speech and mass communication majors. A lot of these majors are students who want to go into the public sphere. So they want to be politicians, they want to be lawyers. And so the one thing that they really don't get a lot of practice is speaking in front of people and interacting in a physical way, verbally back and forth with their peers or with um, faculty. And so it's really kind of a really great thing for them to come into speech and debate and learn these skills. Because if someone wants to become a lawyer and they've just gone to school and they've only taken one public speaking class, and then suddenly they have to speak in front of a jury, they have to speak in front of a judge, it can be quite intimidating if they don't have any practice or they don't have any experience doing it. So these are things that we help offer them. So why do students want to join speech and debate? Not only for, a lot of times students will do it for, um, they're like, oh, I want to travel, I want to go here, I want to go there. Well, that's great, but that's really not the student we are really looking for. We're looking for students that want to learn about speech, that they want to become better speakers. The travel and competition is just kind of an added bonus for the students, but it's really about working hard and becoming better students, better speakers, better individuals. Um, First of all, speech and debate builds confidence. Um, Public speaking becomes less intimidating the more you do it. So they practice a lot, and practice does make perfect. I've always told students who say, "Oh, I'm just going to wing it," that is the worst possible thing you could ever say or do. I taught public speaking, and anytime a student said, "Oh, I'm just going to wing it," it never turns out well. And they'll tell you, uh, your instructors, if you are instructors, you have to practice speaking in front of students. Every new school year and every new semester, instructors haven't been teaching for a few months or for a few weeks, and then suddenly you have to get in front of a new class full of new students. So sometimes it helps to be able to speak confidently to your class, because I'm sure that there are instructors you've had or instructors that students really do not pay attention in their class, they're not engaging. And then you find instructors that are engaging with their students. People want to take their class. Students want to stay after class to talk to their instructor because they feel comfortable speaking to them. Um, and also, it builds confidence in a way that you become confident in your ideas and things you have to say, especially in front of an audience. Um, Speech and debate sharpens communication skills. You learn to think before you speak. You learn to choose the words you're saying wisely, and you want to adapt your tone and your approach and the things that you're saying to your audience. Because the way that, let's say, an instructor speaks to their students is different than the way an instructor would speak if they're speaking to the board. Everything is they learn to adapt to your audience, especially depending on what you're speaking about. Um, And so the skill of speaking is valuable in all aspects of everyday life. There's not going to be any job or especially any job where you're not going to have to communicate with people, especially face to face, which I think a lot of students have lost the ability to communicate back and forth with each other. Especially, I think they can't even speak on the phone sometimes. I've had conversations with students where I think those of us who are, of a certain age, uh, remember what it was like to speak on the phone. And before you hang up with someone, you'll tell them, okay, all right, okay, all right, which means you're winding down the conversation. But some students have no concept of that because of COVID. They can't pick up social cues. They can't pick up physical, verbal cues from people. So this actually helps teach them that, because not only are they working on a team with other students, but they're competing against other students, and they're meeting students from other colleges and other universities. They're meeting judges from other colleges and other universities. Um, Speech and debate also improves critical thinking and research skills. Um, Research is one of the most important things we do, because in order to speak more knowledgeably about your topic, you need to do the research on your topic. Um, Students are really good at researching, but sometimes it's putting the research together with their critical thinking skills where there is kind of a lack of synthesis. Um, just because I've taught public speaking, and I've had students who have taken the prerequisites and they cannot write a simple basic outline. And so sometimes you'll have to teach them how to write an outline. And it's kind of amazing to me that it seems like, a simple concept, but for some reason, um, it's not something that either they learned or that they didn't think was really important. But trust me, writing an outline is the most important thing you will do and learn in your college career. It really is. And so students also have to learn how to construct logical arguments. And some students will want to join the speech debate team and they'll say, oh, I like to argue, but I don't know how to put my arguments in a logical order, and I'm not able to say what I'm thinking in a way that helps me win arguments. And so that's another way to do. It's another way for us to teach students. Well, you've got the drive, you've got the ambition, you have the ideas. You just need to put them in a certain order, and you need to be able to organize your thoughts and your ideas. It also strengthens writing and organization skills, just because students need to kind of prepare their speeches and organize their thoughts clearly and concisely. Um, Essentially, they're writing essays when they're writing a speech. So that comes in handy in their other classes, because then they can organize their ideas, they can write them down, they can if they're not going to have to say them verbally in some classes, if they're writing an essay, they know how to organize their ideas. Um, it also offers competitive opportunities. Like I said, students will travel to tournaments. We try to do at least 4 to 5 tournaments a semester. Each tournament, well, I like to focus on tournaments where they call them swing tournaments, where there's 2 tournaments in one weekend. So students will compete in one tournament on Saturday and then another tournament on Sunday. So it gives them the practice of more than one tournament, and they get more experience that way. Um, all of our tournaments are out of town, so we do travel. Um, and the students do win trophies. Some tournaments will give out gift cards. Some tournaments will um, give out notebooks, binders. It's really interesting sometimes the way that, because some schools don't have the budget or the money in order to buy trophies, so they try to find what they can to give students that they'll appreciate. We've been to tournaments where they've given out bottle openers, just strange things, because at least it's something for the students to have. Or they'll give them little plaques. Sometimes they'll give them medals. And so the really good thing about going out of town is that it gives students an opportunity to go to places they've never been before. We've had many students who've never flown on a plane before we go to a tournament. And so just for them being able to see a different world than they're used to is also really fulfilling. Many times colleges, well, many times four-year universities will recruit from junior colleges and from community colleges. And so we'll go to a tournament and they'll look at the school and they'll say, oh, this is a great school. I think I might want to go here. And a lot of times students will transfer schools. Um, let's see, Ms. Belangi has a question. I'll be getting to that in just a second. Don't worry. Um, it also prepares students for real world scenarios. So in order to navigate the world of competitive speech and debate, students have to compete against other students and act and interact with them on a professional level. They also are interacting with judges from other colleges and other universities on a professional level. So it really teaches them to, because not only are the students they have to dress in business professional attire, which means the men wear suits and ties, the women wear suits and ties also if they prefer, or dresses. It's a very, I would say it can be strange at first when you go to a speech tournament and see all these, college kids in suits and ties and briefcases. Um, and and I've told students, you will never feel, um, you'll never feel like you're not good enough at a speech tournament because all the other schools and all the other students are so supportive and other coaches are so supportive. Whether it's your first time doing it or your 30th time doing it, you will never feel like anyone's going to ever make fun of you because everyone is so professional and they're so nice. And I've told students, if, let's say you've never done it before and it's your first time and you're going to mess up, you won't notice any difference between the way you're treated than the students who've been doing it for years and years. Um, I did competitive forensics in middle school, high school, college, and then I was the graduate teaching assistant for UTEP for 2 years. So I've seen a lot and done a lot of forensics in my time, and it is a different world, but it's a wonderful world. I sometimes say it's kind of like uh, competitive cheerleading meets Honey Boo Boo meets Law and Order. It's a very interesting dynamic. Let's see, okay. These are some photos that we've taken of students when we've gone to tournaments. Um, we try to do something fun when we go to a tournament wherever we go, just because it's not all about competition and students, working them to the bone and then saying, okay, we're going to fly in, compete, and then we're going to fly back. No, we like to go to a tournament. We don't want to stress the students out because it shouldn't be anything to be stressed out about. And so we'll take them to a tournament, they'll compete, and then we usually find something fun to do wherever we go. Although, unfortunately, sometimes there's some cities where there is nothing fun to do. So we have to find something fun to do. Um, we went to St. Louis, we went to the Arch. When we went to San Diego, we went to the beach. When we went to San Francisco, we went to Chinatown. Um, it's all trying to find something that not only is fun but also a learning experience. We went to Dallas and we asked the students where they wanted to go, and they said we want to go to the grassy knoll where they assassinated JFK. So we went there. And then right after that, we went to the Holocaust Museum, which aren't really necessarily fun things, but they were very educational for the students. Um, Sometimes tournaments will be in a hotel. There's a tournament where they're all eating there's a photo where they're all eating at a restaurant, and that was at one of the tournaments where sometimes we're kind of stuck in a hotel for a while. So we have long days when we go to tournaments. So we'll be out of the hotel at say 7 o'clock, and then we won't get back to the hotel from the tournament until sometimes 10 or later. So we have long days, and they are tiring. But the students are young and they have the energy. Every year I get older and I seem to have less energy. But they, they keep going. They have a good time. So this is one of our teams one year. When I first started, the students, about, I would say 90% of them, if not more, had graduated from the Language Institute here at the Valle Verde campus. And so English was their second language. And not only was it their second language, but they had really become proficient in it within the last 1 or 2 years. So they really took to speech and debate. They all worked together. They worked hard. I think they had to work harder than most other students just because they were having to think and speak in a language that wasn't native to them. So sometimes they would have to translate in their head and then retranslate and then speak in English. Some of the students have gone on. One of them graduated from the University of Georgia. Another student graduated from UTEP, one from NMSU. We had a student who went on to oh my goodness, I can't remember the name of the college, but he graduated salutatorian. So it really does kind of draw the kind of students. The students who stay with it are the students who really, in the long run, do very well in life. Um, let's see. Okay, so tournaments. Tournaments actually transitioned to an online format during and right after COVID. Um, and so before then, tournaments were all in person. And so that was a hard transition for us because we had to suddenly switch to an asynchronous and synchronous format when it came to competition. Um, COVID hit right before our national tournaments, so it really threw a wrench into everything. But the transition actually happened very quickly and very smoothly. I was really surprised because suddenly we had two types of tournaments. We had an asynchronous tournament where students would record themselves and then uh, send the videos off, and then they would be put together and then sent back to judges to judge them. And then there was the synchronous format where tournaments were live. And that was harder for us to do just because a lot of our students did not have access to reliable Wi-Fi. They did not have reliable access to internet access. Um, so it was easier for us to do asynchronous because then students could record themselves and then we could look at them and then send them in. Just because doing it live just was kind of a host of problems. And so now tournaments are all back in person, but they are doing online tournaments also, which can come in handy, especially if we need to practice. Some students can just go ahead and do an asynchronous tournament in between some of the gaps between the in-person tournaments. And then some students who may not want to leave or they have a job or for some reason they can't go out of town for a tournament, it's easier for them to do an online tournament. When we do travel out of town, it's usually always on a weekend. Some tournaments are usually a week, but those are in the spring semester, and sometimes they'll overlap with spring break. Um, we've gone to quite a few really exciting places. Some of the organizations that we're part of is the Western States Communication Association. That entails the West Coast, oddly enough, us as the edge of Texas, and then up. So like New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming, North and South Dakota. That's all part of the Western States Communication Association. And they have an annual tournament. And it's an annual tournament and conference. So it's a communication conference. So if individuals who, like faculty members who are looking for tenure, who want to attend a conference who've never done it, it's a really fun thing because they can kind of, I don't want to say piggyback with us, but they won't be by themselves because we'll be competing at a tournament and then they'll be presenting or going to going to workshops, going to presentations. Another association is Pi Kappa Delta. Pi Kappa Delta is honors forensics fraternity. So students can join Pi Kappa Delta. They get a cord they can wear at graduation. They also host an annual tournament. Um, it alternates years. So one year it'll be a regular tournament, like with first, second, third place, all of those. And then the alternating year, it'll be kind of like a a conference where students will perform. They'll get things like superior, excellent, and it's less like a regular tournament and more like a conference. Phi Pi is the community college and junior college forensics association. So they have their own annual tournament. They do have regional tournaments. Um, and that tournament specifically just for junior colleges and community colleges. So students will be competing against other community colleges. It's not as competitive but it is a really great learning experience. And and that's a week-long tournament. So we've got rounds, we've got meetings, we have workshops. It's a long week, and usually they pick uh, somewhere that they can actually host the tournament because it's so big. They have to host it at a like a resort or a large hotel. Last year it was in Norfolk, Virginia. The year before that it was in Reno. It was in Reno, Nevada, and they had it at the Gold Nugget Casino, um, which is fine because it was big enough to host the tournament, but the cigarette smoke was terrible. Um, we also have the International Forensic Association. This one we joined about 4 years ago. Um, the first year I was here was right before COVID, so they canceled that tournament. And the next year they were going to have it in Mexico City, and they canceled it again because of COVID. And then the year after that, they were going to have it in Tokyo, Japan, and that's the first one we attended. Um, and it was amazing. Traveling internationally, there's a huge learning curve, especially because the college doesn't ever really travel internationally. So we had a lot to learn. Um, and it was tough, but we did it, and it was exhausting. And then the following year, we went to Dublin, Ireland. Last year, we went to Seoul, Korea, and this upcoming spring, it's going to be in Athens, Greece. So we really do go to some really great places. And the tournament's about a week long, and the because we're in kind of I call it a forensics desert. The closest tournaments we have, because New Mexico does not have any competitive forensics teams. And yes, it was very cool. Um, and so Colorado has a few. So for us, the closest places we really do have to travel far to go to tournaments. So sometimes it's cheaper for us to go to the West Coast than it is to go somewhere in Texas, oddly enough. So these are all the organizations, not including the smaller ones where you attend tournaments. Regions have their own um, organizations. There's one called the Texas Intercollegiate Forensics Association, TIFA, and they have a tournament every semester. Um, and so those are usually in Far East Texas. So there, we do compete against some big name schools. When we went to um, Korea, like Berkeley was there, University of Texas at Austin, Bradley, like New York University. It was kind of a big deal. So students get to meet students from those schools specifically. Um, and back when I competed, there was no Instagram, so now everyone's following Priscilla on Instagram. They're checking out someone's Instagram, which is really interesting to see how things have changed since I competed. So let's go over some of the events that students actually do perform. We have four different categories of events. The first one is um, oral interpretation of literature. So these are what we call the acting events. Students will perform usually from a binder with a script in it. The first one is prose. And so prose is something, it's kind of a beginning event. It's a learning event. So you get a lot more individuals competing in that specific event. So you may go to a tournament where there'll be um, 50 to 70 students doing prose, just because it's something that beginners can really take to get a feel for uh, the events in general. So prose is basically, I would say, it's story reading. It's performance of a script with a narrative to it. So it wouldn't be a script from a movie or a play. It would specifically be something written in prose fashion, like a novel, a short story, something along those lines. And so the next event would be poetry, which is exactly what it sounds like, poetry. Students may either do one single long poem, or they may do a collection of poems that have a common theme. All these events are 10 minutes. So trying to find a 10-minute poem can be a little difficult. So a lot of times students will do poetry programs with a common theme. We had a student do poetry and the theme was being Latina and going to college. And so we've had a student do one on migrant farm workers, and they just get different poems together and they arrange them in a format that makes sense and that flows, as we like to say. Um, so you want to make sure that the poems are complementary. We want to make sure that they're doing more modern poetry as opposed to you really don't want them to do Edgar Allan Poe or poems that everyone's heard, that everyone's read. They want to do, new poems, things that are relevant to society and to their world today. The next event is dramatic interpretation. This is a performance of a play, a television show, a movie script. Um, it's basically almost like a monologue, a 10-minute monologue for students to perform. So I think dramatic interpretation is a pretty good event also for students who are theater majors because number one, they like to act and they take well to it because it's something they've been trained in if they've taken theater classes before. Our next event is programmed oral interpretation, or as we like to call it, POI or POI. POI is the combination of more than one genre of literature. So when I talk about genres of literature, it's basically the type of literature that the student's performing. So it'll be a common theme, but it may have poetry along with prose, along with dramatic interpretation, kind of all mixed in together. And that way, students really learn how to think critically about how to make sure that these individual selections work with each other. Do they really come together? Is it, and they have to really kind of dig deep and analyze these works because they have to give an introduction to all these performances as to why they chose the selection, why it's important, why your audience should be listening to it. Program role interpretation is a relative, well, I want to say a relatively new event, but it's been around for like, 25 years. Um, but I guess to me, it's still relatively new. The next event is duo interpretation. This is basically dramatic interpretation, but with two individuals, two people. So it's like a partner um, oral interpretation event. So students are interacting with each other. It's kind of like a little duet scene. Um, and so sometimes students will also incorporate uh, other forms of literature in it, such as poetry, such as prose, if depending on what their common theme is. So a lot of themes that you'll find students doing as far as oral interpretation of literature are a lot of social justice issues, things that they see in their world, things that they encounter on a daily basis, uh, things that they want other individuals to learn about. And so that's one thing is that they're also teaching you. A student did a poetry selection on lynchings, but it was specifically on the lynchings of Mexicans in the 1920s. And so a lot of students had never even heard of that before. So they learn about different things through a dramatic performance that really makes them feel and think about things. The next category we have are limited preparation events. These are events where students are given a certain amount of time to construct and perform a speech. So the first event we have is impromptu. And this one, students receive quotations, and their goal is to interpret the quotation as they see it, and then agree or disagree with it, and then normally give three reasons as to why with um, supporting evidence. And usually they'll use as their supporting evidence works of art, historical figures, movies, television shows, music, whatever they can. to support their argument. Usually I find that impromptu works if people have a unlimited knowledge of garbage in their head. Um, if you know a lot of facts about a lot of things, this is a great event for you. It's a great event for students because it helps them start out. So an impromptu, they're given a quotation and they have 7 minutes total to read the quotation, analyze it, organize a speech, and perform the speech. So students will usually prepare for 2 minutes with the quotation and they'll speak for 5 minutes. It is a really great beginner event. I mean, it may not seem as though because it seems like how can someone do this in 7 minutes? With little practice, it becomes easier and easier. So students really do like it because it's challenging, and it's great because they can prepare quickly for things and for arguments and for performance. And they learn not to be nervous if they have to speak kind of at a minute's notice. The next limited preparation event is extemporaneous. Extemporaneous is different in that students have 30 minutes to prepare a 7-minute speech. So extemporaneous is usually topics of current events, and they're usually um, uh, domestic topics about the US, or they're international topics about other countries. So it'll pose to them a question. Let's say the question is, I'm trying to think of something that's not political. Let's say the question will be, uh, will the new tariffs have an effect on Chinese imports uh, in the Canadian and American region? And so the student would have to analyze it and do research on it. So they have 30 minutes, they have a laptop, and they have to find articles and oh, articles and learn how to structure speech along with giving sources and citing sources and learning how to organize their ideas in a way that's coherent and precise and isn't rambling. Extemporaneous is really, I find individuals who were really into political science, to read the paper, to read the news, um, find it's easier for them to do extemp because they already kind of have a basic understanding of the topics that they're given. The next events we have are platform speaking events. These are prepared speeches. So if anyone's ever taken a public speaking class, these are kind of the speeches that they do. The first speech they do is informative speaking, and that is basically, I like to say, it's a teaching speech. So it has no persuasion in it whatsoever. You're not telling your audience what to think. You're not saying if something's good. You're not saying if something's bad. You're just simply presenting your audience a topic and information about that topic. Whether the information is good or whether the information is bad, that's not your decision to make. A lot of times students will use topics about uh, technology, things that are new and kind of cutting edge. Maybe there's something about some medical breakthroughs. Things like that are kind of the topics that students choose. And they basically they're talking to their audience about it to say, listen, this is a topic I found, do with it what you will, but this is the issue at hand. Sometimes they'll pick like a social justice issue and they'll say, this is an issue that's happening. I'm not going to tell you whether you need to do something about it or how to solve it, but this is an issue that you should be aware of. And that kind of leads us into persuasive speech, was a speech where it's an informative speech, but you also have a solution to the issue or the problem that you're telling your audience about. A lot of times the solutions are not um, broad solutions. They're very much individualized for their audience. If someone wants to do persuasive speech on, pollution, the solution is not really applicable because you can't just kind of solve pollution. So we ask students to become more specific, to think about specific things that they can focus on. And so they get them to narrow down their ideas so it's not so broad. So let's say they want to do it on pollution. but we'll say, okay, well, let's talk about something specific. Well, how about pollution on college campuses, because they are college students. And so what aspects of pollution on college campuses concern you? And so those are things that the students will use in their speeches. And then for solutions, they offer solutions to their audience who are also college students to say, hey, you as a college student can do this. And students will write letters to congressmen. They'll have QR codes for their audience to scan. They'll have pre-addressed letters that for students to sign and say, we're going to mail this off. Um, it's a really interesting topic because you get students will have here. I have made buttons about my topic, and for all of you guys to wear. They're free. Um, the next event is communication analysis. Communication analysis is really geared towards communication scholars. I find it to be a very interesting um, event because when I competed, I was not a communication major. I was a theater major. I thought it was the most boring event on the face of the earth. I said, who wants to listen to this? And then when I went back to school, I became a communication major and I changed my tune because I suddenly found it to be the most interesting event that there is. What students do is they call it an artifact or a piece of communication, whether it be a television show, a movie, an advertising campaign, a book, a movement, um, and they apply a communication theory to it to get a better understanding of how it actually works. And I find that to be so fascinating. Um, and so it's kind of uh, it's basically like rhetorical criticism. It's really interesting. It's kind of a, a breakdown of common communication formats, TV shows, movies, to get them a deeper understanding of them. The last public speaking event we have is after dinner speaking. After dinner speaking, sorry, or speech to entertain is basically an informative speech or persuasive speech, but it's funny. They add jokes to it. They make it humorous. It's a very popular event for students to go watch because it's funny and they can be really entertained um, during it. The topics are fun. They can be serious topics, but they do sometimes make them lighthearted. So it's easier to get your message across to your audience. There was a student who was doing it on matchmaking. There was an app for matchmaking in India, and his mother had put him on the app. So he used his profile as a visual aid to talk about it, to say this is the new thing that some cultures are turning to in order to find and to work on prearranged marriages, but in a new modern technological way. The last thing we do is debate. The kind of debate we do is International Public Debate Association debate, or IPDA debate. IPDA debate started as a reaction to the state of what debate had become. Debate on the college level had become very aggressive. It was very fast. It was this whole other world of fast speaking, yelling, screaming, and they wanted to make a debate that was more geared towards students who did not have a lot of debate experience because the other debate was, which is called CETA debate, cross-examination debate association debate, was very intimidating and students did not want to do it. So they came up with IPDA debate, which is specifically for a novice or a beginner. It's geared for judges and coaches who do not have debate experience. They actually consider it more of an individual event than they do debate. Students, it's a one-on-one debate, so it's one person versus another person. And so what happens is they are given a set of topics and they cross them out until they have one topic remaining. And then the two students have 30 minutes to do a negative case or an affirmative case, depending on which side they're on, for or against. And then The students will prep for 30 minutes and then come together and debate for 30 minutes. It's quick. It's very, very, very friendly debate. Students will come in, they'll thank their opponent for coming in, they'll thank the judge. It's really very much a gentleman's debate or gentlewoman's debate. These are IPDA registered institutions in America. You see where El Paso is? We're literally in like a big gap area where there's nothing remotely close to us. Um, so IPDA is very much like a shorter um, debate. Other debates take an hour and a half. This is very quick. Um, and so students are able to time themselves when they speak. They are allowed to have a, a paper, a notepad with them, and a pen and a stopwatch. They're not allowed to have any laptops while they're debating. They can use them in the preparation, but not while they're debating. They cannot have any electronic devices. So that kind of makes it easier for them to debate each other. This is the debate format. So someone speaks for 5 minutes and they cross-examine for 2 minutes. Then they speak for 6 minutes. They cross-examine for 2 minutes. They speak for 3 minutes, and then 5 minutes and 3 minutes. So it goes really quick. And there isn't time in between these speeches for them to write a whole new speech. So basically, they have to get up and kind of start talking using the notes that they have uh, from the cross-examination, or when their other person was speaking, they'll take notes about their case so they know what to argue. And if the speech is laid out correctly, it's not a problem for them to follow along and figure out what's going on. So the speech team consists of myself, and I have three other coaches, Dr. Rick Falvo, Erica Portillo, and Harry Schulte. Mr. Schulte works out of the Northwest campus. Um, And so Dr. Falvo and Erica Portillo work out of the Valle Verde campus along with myself. I do travel to the Northwest campus when Mr. Schulte has practice. Um, well, I guess when we have practice, and it's we would did the Rio Grande campus, but that still wasn't close enough to the far west side students, so we just started going over there. Um, and sometimes Miss Berthiel will go because she lives on that side of town and it's on her way home. Sometimes the hardest thing is trying to find times to meet with the students and to figure out when everyone is available or when the best time for students to meet is. We're always also available by appointment. Just let us know and they can, come meet with us. If you have any students that you think would be good for this, we're always happy to take new students. We take students all year, not just at the beginning of the year or just in the fall semester. We take students all year. Um, it's hard for us to find students who do have speech and debate experience just because students who do speech and debate in high school usually go to four-year universities when they graduate. We have students who um, most of our students have never, I would say like 99% of our students have never done speech and debate before. Some students have an interest in it. They've done it like at school for a class, but they've never actually competed in the speech team. We're different from the clubs just because we are almost, I guess, like the baseball team or the track team. We kind of fall into that category as opposed to the clubs. There is a speech communication club. If students just want to join a club to have it on their resume, that's great, but this is more competitive. So sometimes students think it's just kind of, it's a club, I'm just going to add it to my resume, and they come in and they're like, oh, wow, this is work. And so they get kind of surprised. I've got, let's see, not much time left. So that's it. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to use your microphone just because you
There's
don't have to raise your
a
hand
few
either.
questions
Oh
in the
my
chat.
gosh, that was
Sorry.
so loud. I'm so,
I
that
apologize.
was, that's
Um,
okay. Oh, I think my speakers are too high.
Okie dokie. Regina just wanted to check again about what majors the students need to be. They don't need to be a particular major, right?
Right, they can be any major. They just have to be able to compete at tournaments. They have to be enrolled at least part-time.
Okay. And then what rooms do y'all meet in at the different campuses
Oh,
or?
sure. Um, in at Valle Verde, it's C401. In the C building up at the very top floor, I call it the tower. We're far away from everything. In the Northwest campus, it kind of changes per semester as to what room is available for the instructor. But we normally will email students, this is where we're meeting at, this is the time. We have a group chat that's easier for us to communicate with each other just because some of the students um, don't have access to phone lines in the United States, so we'll have to use WhatsApp sometimes to contact them. But normally it's always through email first.
I see. So at this time, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Minnich? All right, well, while we wait for questions, I would like to take a moment and thank you, Mr. Minnich, for presenting for us today. Um,
Oh,
I,
you're welcome. Thank you. There I am. Okay.
there you go. Thank you, sir. I'd like to thank the audience for joining us on their lunch hour and hanging out with us for the TVEs for this semester. This is our last TVE for the summer semester. However, we'll be back again in August for the fall semester to start up our TVEs once again. It'll be at the same time, 1 p.m. on Fridays at the same place. So, like I said, we'll be here for a minute or two if there's any more questions. And if not, we hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you.